Hey, welcome to the DMR, the Daily Mass Review for today, Tuesday, June 23rd. Probably will not come out on Tuesday, June 23rd, but that's the Mass that I'm talking about. So, if you're really interested in the readings, you have to go back in time to when this video was recorded and look at the Mass readings. But I promise it will still be relevant. But anyway, hello, my name is James. This is my first official video. This is a project that I'm mostly doing for my teens because they're bored and they need some more Jesus in their life. So I'm trying to fill that need. But if you're not one of my teens or listening to this video, hey, glad to have you. It's gonna be fun. So let's talk about Jesus. Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, this video is sponsored by St. Anthony of Padua. Preaching to fish in true Franciscan fashion since medieval ages. He's a great guy. He's gonna intercede for us in this video. He really did preach to fishes. He thought, being Franciscan wasn't enough. He actually had to preach to animals. Yeah, what a guy. Anyway, let's talk about the Mass. So today we have an interesting reading because the reading is very deceptive because the entire context for the reading is not in the reading at all. It's from Kings, and it's talking about this guy named Hezekiah. Hezekiah, real beauty. That guy, he's great. And we don't know who he is if you just read this reading without having read the previous readings. He's a great guy. In fact, he's probably the only great king from that entire era when it comes to Israel, right? Even his dad was, really bad. He wasn't good for Israel. And he was in a really big problem because there was this big empire called Assyria just over, next door neighbor, big empire called Assyria, who was not just conquering kingdoms, but like taking them over and just annihilating them from the face of the earth. And that was bad for Judah. No, at this time it wasn't the kingdom of Israel because there was actually two kingdoms of Israel. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Hezekiah was the king of Judah, and this guy in Assyria is like, hey, I'm gonna come and conquer you. Although it didn't happen in that order. Here's what happened before. So Hezekiah's father, Ahaz, saw that Israel at that time, there was Israel in the north and Judah in the south. There are two kingdoms that make up modern day or traditional Israel, right? And Israel in the north was ruled by a different kingdom, a whole different thing. Assyria came and destroyed them. They're gone. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. Assyria so completely annihilated them that the entire 10 tribes of Israel that were in Assyria, gone. Just gone. Gone off of it. We don't know where they are. They're gone. Don't look for them anywhere. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. Right? There are a lot of people, there's some people who have come out over time and claim they're from one of these lost tribes or whatever. But pretty much all Jews nowadays that are descended from the two tribes that remain that were in the kingdom of Judah to the south, which were Judah and Dan, I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. Because there were 12 sons of Jacob. Those 10, gone. 2 tribes, gone. And there's just these 2 left. And so Ahaz, Hezekiah's father, sees this happening. And so he goes to visit the king of Assyria. When he goes to Assyria, he studies the Assyrian altars. He's like, hey, what if we just built one of their altars where our altar is and do their sacrifice to show them that, we don't want, Don't kill us. We'll be nice and we'll play by your rules and we'll do your stuff and we'll worship your gods and then you guys can go away, right? And so he does this, and the king of Assyria for a little while just kind of ignores him and just focuses on destroying Israel next door. Ahaz's like, that's fine. As long as you don't kill us, we're cool. So he takes the altar for Jewish sacrifices in the temple and he just moves it out of the way so that now the main altar in the temple is now this Assyrian one. Basically, what he's doing by doing this is he's making the Assyrian king to now be the god that they worship, right? The god, the person that they're worshiping, as opposed to God. He's putting, and the Assyrian king likes us, like, hey, great, as long as you recognize that I'm greater than your gods, we can be cool. Years later, when Hezekiah, Ahaz's son, takes over, right after this incredibly sacrilegious and terrible series of events taking place, he goes and he gets rid of all these Assyrian temples. He's like, what the heck? We don't worship the God of Assyria. We worship the God of Israel. He's called the God of Israel. He's nobody else's God. He's just ours. That's it. He's our God. So we're going to worship him. We're going to get rid of all this other crap. Just throw it out. Destroy it. Get rid of it. The Assyrian king hears about this. He starts marching his army and he sends representatives. All of this doesn't happen in the actual Bible passage that we're reading from today, but it's important to know. He sends his in chapter 18 before this in Kings, he sends his royal guards to go and basically say, hey, surrender or die. Actually, if you surrender, I'll kill you too. So basically, you're going to die. Unless you worship me instead of your gods. Of course, most of the Israelites are very scared, but Hezekiah has told them very seriously. He's told even the Israelites, don't say anything. Because when they come in, they walk into the grounds of their meeting, and there's just walls around. And all of the Israelites who have seen them walk in are like perching over the walls to hear what is happening. And the Assyrian representatives are purposely speaking in a language that they can understand so that they can be afraid. He wants them to be afraid. And Hezekiah has told them, prepared the people and said, hey, they're going to try and scare you. Don't believe them. If you haven't picked up on it yet, the way that this story is being written, the Assyrian king is being portrayed like the devil, coming to destroy and pillage and plunder, pitting himself against God, right? Worship me, don't worship your God. And so Jews kind of have this thing where they Hulk out in prayer when they're really upset. They don't like just get on their knees and pray. The first thing they do is they just rip up their clothes. Just tear their clothes like they're hulking out, and then they put on sackcloth, right? And then they just are just like, I'm so upset, I'm just gonna rip my clothes off. You know? Like, this is just a Jewish thing to do. I don't know why they do that. They do it to show God that they're penitent. That's why they do that. I just think it's funny the way they describe it. He's like, and they tore their clothes and put on sackcloth. Okay, because that's a normal thing to do when you're praying. I can't imagine ever doing that, like sitting up in church and just tearing my shirt off and being like, God, help me! Be funny though. It'd be funny. Be very embarrassing, but I would laugh. Anyway, so after this happened, then we actually get to what happens in the passage. And the message that King Hezekiah takes the message that he gets from Assyria and goes to God and says, hey, look at this message I got. We need to do something about this. Please, God. You know, I've done all these things. I destroyed the temples. I brought the people back to you to believe in you again. Please help me. Who is it that answers the call for help? None other than the prophet Isaiah. Why is that funny? Because nobody ever listens to the prophets. And so God made very clear to give the message to Isaiah to be like, hey, I gave you this guy to tell you what you should do. His name's Isaiah. He's a prophet. Don't know if you heard of him or not. You know, maybe ask him next time. Because he already knew what was going to happen. He prophesied it. Remember that prophecy he made about how the Assyrians were going to come and kill you? And now they're here and they're trying to kill you? There's a guy who was right about that, who predicted the future. Maybe you should, you know, he's just basically digging it in and be like, hey, I'm here waiting. I've been here. I've been yelling at you to change your ways. You're changing your ways. Great. Did you forget the guy who was yelling at you to change your... So Hezekiah is like, oh yeah, that Isaiah guy, he's cool. So Isaiah sends a message saying, this is the Lord's response to your message. Sometimes in the Old Testament, God kind of goes all out in a very violent way. So he just walks into the Assyrian camp and just kills 185,000 of their soldiers. Just the entire army just gone. It's like, oh yeah, you say you're greater than me? Watch this. Watch this magic trick. See all these men? Whew, disappear. They're gone. Never to be seen again. Shocking. Right? Because God's a magician sometimes in the Bible. It doesn't actually say they disappeared them. I don't know. I assume that's what happened. Or maybe it was very violent and bloody. I don't know. But the point is, God got rid of them. Right? And the Assyrians walk back, and then later, Sennacherib, the Assyrian king, dies. And, you know, happy ending. Right? Don't remember the Babylonians. They come later. We don't talk about the Babylonians. So this is the context of the story, right? If you just read the story, it's like, oh, Hezekiah's making a prayer. Like, no. Hezekiah is awesome. Hezekiah's like the kind of guy I want to be my friend because he makes me holier by being around him. This is the kind of king we're talking about. This is like King David levels. Like, oh yeah, just forget about the other bad stuff, King David. But like King David levels of good stuff. Oh yeah, Hezekiah, he's a cool guy. You should read more about him. Go and read Kings. It's a cool book. And the Bible passages today kind of meld together in this way where God is basically saying, like, look, I've been treating you like a child because you are a child. What do I mean by that? God is, in the Old Testament especially, God kind of relates to Israel as if it's his child. But not like his child, like, oh, you're my precious child and I love you. It's more like he has to be patient with us. Sometimes we do stupid stuff. Sometimes we throw tantrums. Sometimes we don't understand what we're doing. We're really like a toddler to God in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament too, he's kind of making this point in the Psalm. He's trying to remind us, hey, I uphold my city forever. That's a psalm. That's a psalm for today. God upholds his city forever. I've been here the whole time. I've been here. I've been upholding you. Every time you breathe, I'm there. Every time you walk, I'm there. I've been here. You just didn't know I was there. That's the problem. I'm here. Can you please listen to me? I'm trying to help you. And so he does, right? He comes through for Hezekiah in this instance, right? It's an incredibly beautiful act of faith, several acts of faith in a row by Hezekiah to not get discouraged in the face of almost certain destruction, and instead put his faith in God, and God just comes to the rescue in a way that just goes beyond his wildest imaginations, right? He's overkill. God is overkill when it comes to these things. Now, how does this relate to God? The gospel seems like a little bit unrelated to this kind of story, because this is the golden rule gospel. This is the gospel that says, treat others as you would like them to treat you. It's the golden rule. It's that thing you hear about in elementary school. Hey, don't treat people bad because it could be you who's getting treated bad. The reason that this gospel is related to this passage is God basically saying, hey, I have loved you since the beginning of time. I will love you forever. I have always been here. I will always be faithful to you. But you're not always being faithful to me. Because right after that passage in the gospel comes, it follows with, the hard way is the right way. The easy way, the simple way is the one that leads you away from God. But the hard way, that's the one that leads you to God. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for you to try and love me the way I love you. Try and treat me the way I treat you. Impossible, actually. But if you ever want to be happy, if you ever want to be in a relationship with me, you need to believe. You need to love. You need to try. You need to try really hard. It's not easy. But Hezekiah is a great testimony to the fact that if you put your faith in God, he will come through in the biggest ways. He's so generous with how much love he's willing to share with, how much he's willing to defend us, how much he's willing to uphold us forever. He comes through. He always does. But you need to have some faith. So whatever it is that you're having a problem, whatever part of your life you're having a hard time keeping your faith in God, being able to say yes to what he wants from you, what he's asking of you, no matter how hard it is. Just think of Hezekiah, right? It seemed like the world was ending. He still chose to believe in God. And you know what? The world didn't end. The world went on because God was there. The world doesn't go on without God, right? Your life doesn't go on without God. It's not well, anyway. But when you worship God, he comes through. Comes through big time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.